Hey everybody, and thanks for clicking on this video and checking out my YouTube channel. Avengers Endgame is just around the corner, so I'm going to be looking back at all the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies in preparation for the big event. If you'd like to join me for that ride, I welcome you to do so, and also add your comments and opinions about these movies down below in the comment section. Let's get a fun conversation going. And with all that out of the way, let's talk about the next entry in this universe, Iron Man 2. So Iron Man 2 is once again directed by Jon Favreau, and sees Robert Downey Jr. returning in the starring role as Tony Stark. Since revealing himself to the world as Iron Man, Tony is living the rockstar life as a superhero in the public eye, while also dealing with health behind the scenes because the element used for the arc reactor in Tony's chest is adding toxicity levels to his blood. As Jarvis puts it, the device keeping Tony alive is also killing him. Things only get worse for Tony when a new villain, Ivan Vanko, portrayed by Mickey Rourke, sets out to destroy Tony Stark and the Stark legacy. This movie has gotten a lot of criticism in the past, and still to this day, about being just an Avengers prelude movie, only being made to set up the Avengers film, which isn't necessarily unwarranted, but I don't 100% agree with this statement. Though it does feel, at least to me, like there is a legitimate attempt to continue the story and further it since the last film. Tony is now loved by the world, and all of the praise has definitely gone to his head and to his ego. As the Iron Man, he feels he has single-handedly achieved world peace. When the government wants him to turn his technology over to them, he won't do it because he feels like he owns it, and he feels like he is the only one capable of handling this technology. And I find the idea of Tony slowly being killed by the same thing that saves his life very interesting, but the way the character acts does kind of bother me a little bit. Robert Downey Jr. still plays this role like a champ. He doesn't miss a beat as Tony Stark. But to see Tony be so self-destructive and irresponsible with his technology and his suit just because his life expectancy might be up sooner than he thought, I feel backtracks on the character's progress since the first film, and it also kind of makes him break his promise to Yinsen before he died about not wasting his life. The first Iron Man story is a pretty straightforward and solid movie, and it really is just a focused character study on Tony Stark, from his life before captivity to his life in captivity, and how the life in captivity set him forward for a new path. This movie has a lot more going on in it. It deals with Tony and his fame and his health issues. It deals with the government wanting to take his suits, and all the politics that go into that. We have the subplot with Ivan Vanko and Justin Hammer, played by Sam Rockwell. And yes, we do in fact have the Avengers set up, with introducing Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, and also introducing Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. I know he was in the post-credit scenes of Iron Man, but this is really the character's introduction. Although the way that they play it off, if you hadn't watched the post-credit scenes of Iron Man, you would not really understand what's going on, because they go straight into it, with Tony Stark talking about not wanting to join his boy band. They really set that relationship, expecting you to have seen the post-credit scenes of Iron Man. So the villain of Ivan Vanko I actually don't think is a bad idea. His father was taken off the arc reactor project by Howard Stark, so Ivan wants to act out his revenge on Howard Stark through Tony Stark, which is kind of cool because it's kind of like the sins of the fathers being passed down to the sons, and the sons having to carry it on. But with so many different subplots and storylines going on and the movie trying to balance them all out, Ivan really gets pushed to the sidelines with Justin Hammer and spends the majority of the movie in a warehouse with him. And he's literally and metaphorically stored away until the third act. Ivan and Tony really only have 3 scenes together, and that's not enough for them to set up a really well-defined conflict between the two. So whenever Ivan's not on screen, it feels like Tony Stark has completely forgotten about him, because to Tony Stark he was just a blink of an eye. He was here and then he was gone. There's really no reason for Tony Stark to get mostly invested in having a conflict with this guy. So whenever he's not on screen, Tony Stark just totally forgets about him, and that makes me totally forget about him until he pops back up in the warehouse, working on the drones for Sam Rockwell's character. But the motivations and concept for Ivan and Tony Stark's conflict is there, but they're not focused on, and therefore it just feels like a missed opportunity to have a deeper and compelling conflict between these two characters. And like I said, the Avengers setup aspect of the movie is definitely there, but it really doesn't come in until the later half of the film. But when it does, they definitely go all in and get in this universe set up. There's Easter eggs to Captain America, and connections made to the upcoming Thor movie, by name-dropping New Mexico, which is one of the main settings in the Thor movie. But I do have fun with those setup scenes, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't think they take that much away from the movie. Especially now seeing where this universe has come to, looking back at this, it feels pretty natural. It feels no different than all the later films mentioning and name-dropping things that happen in the other movies. And I have a lot of fun with it. This movie does have a lot more flaws though than the first one does, and just has little things that just don't make sense and could be seen as nitpicks, but they just stand out so well they feel bigger than nitpicks. For example, why does Tony Stark have a full-on racer suit ready to go for him with his name across the chest and everything, when he spontaneously decides to join the race in Monaco? Why would he bring that racing suit to Monaco in the first place? And I don't think they could make a suit that fast when he spontaneously just decides to join the race. Even the lineup on the screen takes out a name and puts Tony Stark's in, because he wasn't supposed to be in that race. Which also leads to another big problem with that scene. Why does Ivan Vanko go to the race in the first place? He didn't know Tony Stark was gonna be at that race. Yet he shows up and interrupts the race by causing chaos and mayhem and panic. Was he just trying to get Tony Stark's attention through the media so that Iron Man would show up? Because he couldn't have known that Tony Stark was going to be in that race because it was a spontaneous decision made by Tony Stark. Even if he went to Monaco, how would he know that Tony Stark was going to Monaco? I don't know, that whole scene just feels like it was written and set up for Ivan to know that Tony Stark was going to be in this race, and that's why he showed up to the race in the first place. But he couldn't know that Tony Stark was going to be in the race because Tony Stark spontaneously decided to join the race. It just doesn't make sense to me. Also, when Rhodey, now played by Don Cheadle by the way, puts on the Iron Man suit, why is he able to operate it perfectly? We spent the last movie watching Tony working on the tech and building the tech, creating the tech, and learning how to use the tech. So to watch Rhodey operate it perfectly first try is kind of annoying, to be honest. These are all things that I'm sure have been mentioned elsewhere and covered on a bunch of other videos, but these are legitimate questions that I had during this movie. They just stick out like a sore thumb. And of course, Tony Stark creating a new element is really hard to buy into. While it's great again to see Tony Stark use his mechanical genius and intelligence to solve his problem, it does almost feel like the writers forgot to wrap up the storyline of Tony's dying, so they squeezed in him creating a new element. It just happens way too fast, easily, and conveniently for Tony. But despite all these questions and problems and flaws that I have with this movie, I do like Iron Man 2. Robert Downey Jr. is always great to watch as this character, even if I'm not a fan of self-destructive Tony. It does still have some good humor, some quick and slick quips between characters, and some pretty cool action set pieces. But I do feel that the amount of subplots and even characters in this movie are too much for it to juggle, which makes it feel less focused than the last film and a step down in my eyes. But all that being said, I still enjoy a lot in it, and luckily this movie was good enough to allow us to see more Robert Downey Jr. in later films when the MCU really begins to flourish and find its stride. And we're gonna get to that moment real soon. Guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video and checking out my channel. What do you think of Iron Man 2? Do you like it, love it, hate it? Do you even like it more than the first Iron Man movie? Do you think it's a step down from the first Iron Man movie like I do? Comment down below, let me know your thoughts and opinions about this movie. Guys, I'm going to be back talking more MCU before the release of Endgame. If you'd like to join me for that, I welcome you to do so, and I would love to talk about these movies with you. Once again, my name is Zachary Milne. Thank you for talking movies with me, and I hope you have yourself a great day.